Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the second session in the 2022 Travel Retail Sustainability Week. My name's Michael Barrett, and I'm Head of Events and Corporate Social Responsibility at TR Business. And I'll be co-moderating this session with my esteemed colleague, Luke Barris-Hill, who will be introducing himself in a few short moments. Excuse me 1 second while I have a technical issue here at TR Business Sydney office. Here we go. So welcome to, as I said, to the second session, Green Design from the Perfect Store to the Purpose Store. Thanks to all of you for joining us here this week, and also to our speakers for their time and effort, and we'll be introducing them in a few short moments. But also special thanks to our headline sponsor, Mars, for supporting this event, as well as the sponsors of this session, Mars, Diageo, Altavia, JTI, and Counter. Okay, another technical issue here. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. But also a big thanks to all our sponsors who you can see on screen now for supporting this event. As you know, this event is accessible free of charge because we would like to enable all of you in the industry to watch the sustainability messages that we're going to be hearing about, spread the message as far and wide as we can throughout the industry to support this particular initiative that we launched in 2021. As you know, this is the only industry event dedicated solely to sustainability. And the objective of this event is really to share the ideas, share initiatives, both current initiatives, as well as projects in the pipeline. And we want to use this opportunity, like we did last year, as a springboard for further collaboration and creativity in areas that your company may not yet have embarked upon. And that's exactly what happened in this particular session 1 year ago, where some of the participants were inspired by what they heard from other panelists and other partners, and took the conversation further in the weeks and months that followed and created some new sustainable concepts. And you're going to hear about some of those today. So we aim to bring these new concepts and potential partners from outside the industry as well, to hear what they can offer, as well as from industry stakeholders. Last year, we had David Katz from the Plastic Bankers, one of the external speakers, and this year we have a number of fresh faces from outside the industry as well, as you'll discover throughout the week. And this year, we've also broadened the scope of topics we'll be talking about under the sustainability umbrella, with new topics both on health and well-being, but also on diversity and inclusion in this year's program. So over the next few days, we've got a great speaker lineup and packed program. We had the keynote session earlier this morning. Tomorrow, we've got the health and well-being and diversity and inclusion session I just mentioned. On Thursday, we've got circular solutions and a session on the future of food. And finally, on Friday, we have a session also on a category-specific session on the spirits, the wines and spirits category, as well as our two-part closing keynote session, Green Influencers, combining people, planet, and purpose. Also, let's not forget our two sustainability pitch sessions tomorrow and on Thursday. Tomorrow at 11:30 British Summer Time, and on Thursday at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And we'll have input from Altavia, Gonzalez Bias, Mondelez and Nestle in tomorrow's session. And on Thursday, we'll have L'Oreal, Mondelez again, Moroccan Oil, and New Wave, all vying for the travel retail sustainability trailblazers and heroes accolades. So do participate in all the sessions actively. You've got the Q&A function on the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll be monitoring your questions throughout the session and putting those to our speakers. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Luke now, who will introduce himself and ask our speakers to introduce themselves. Over to you, Luke.
Well, thank you, Michael, for that comprehensive introduction. And hello to all of you tuning in from across the world to view this second Travel Retail Sustainability Week, second inaugural Travel Retail Sustainability Week, coinciding, of course, with Earth Day on the 22nd of April. You're all very welcome. I hope you enjoyed the excellent and thought-provoking series of addresses that we heard from this morning, led by my colleagues Charlotte Turner and Michael Barrett. And it really set the tone for what is going to be a comprehensive series of educational insights and sessions over the coming days, and we sincerely hope you'll join us for all of those. I'm Luke Barrisill, as Michael mentioned, Managing Editor of the TR Business E-zine, and I want to start by expressing my thanks, my sincere thanks, as Michael has already done, to all of our partners involved in this event. Headline sponsor Mars, Platinum sponsors being Suntory and Diageo, and all of our premium partners. That's not to forget all of our event partners in association. Without your support, hosting a program of this caliber simply would not be possible. And at this point, I'd also like to pay a very special mention to our sponsors for this specific session: Mars, Diageo, Altavia, JTI, and Counter, part of the Blue Dog Group. So, as Michael's already outlined, over the course of the coming days, you'll be hearing from thought leaders and influential voices from across the length and breadth of travel retail, and indeed across other sectors and industries. They'll be debating and discussing a flurry of sustainable initiatives, products and services being proposed by companies within our industry and indeed outside. And at the same time, and in addition to last year's programme, as my colleagues have already touched upon, we'll be moving forward the dialogue beyond environmental issues and how we as businesses are taking action to offset our impacts on the environment by spotlighting a number of specific sessions: health and well-being, and diversity and inclusion. And you'll hear more on those sessions tomorrow, where we'll be having dedicated time to discuss the many permutations involved. So from people and planet now, we segue seamlessly into this session, where we'll be debating the mechanics of the sustainable in-store experience. And together with my colleague, Michael Barrett, we'll be leading you through this exciting session: green design from the perfect store to the purpose store. Now, shoppers today are increasingly sensitive to all aspects of sustainability, as we are well aware, including how a product is sourced, designed, manufactured, and critically presented on shelf. And it's this last aspect that we'll be unboxing in more detail over the coming 90 minutes, building very much on the learnings we took away from the opening keynote. We'll be shining the light on some key initiatives to understand how travel retail is striving to become more circular in form and function, while catering to consumers' heightened interest and sensitivity to sustainability. What are consumers demanding from more eco-conscious store environments? How are retailers, operators, and brands responding? And what lessons can we take away as we emerge from the pandemic and prepare to accommodate more travellers as we increase capacities at our transport hubs across the world? Now, to help us through some of those big picture questions, we'll be drawing on the learnings and insights from an eminent panel of speakers, and I'll pass over to each of them shortly to offer their introductions. But before I do so, I want to reiterate what Michael's already said. I want to remind you all watching these sessions that these are really designed to foster knowledge exchange, be conversational in nature and tone. Sustainability Week was designed as an incubator for new ideas, and we'll be playing this out very much through the sessions in the coming days. So we encourage you to put your questions, any thoughts, comments, or opinions to our panelists in order for them to answer and provide some perspective on where our industry currently is. In addition to that, you can use the Q&A function on the right-hand side of your panel. So please do get involved on that side. We'll try and address as many questions as possible as we move through the session. So without further ado, it's now apt to hand over to each of our panelists. They're going to introduce themselves and their companies. So let's start with Theresa at Umdasch. Theresa.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Michael and Luke. Hello, everyone. My name is Theresa, and I am with Umdasch, the store makers. I'm currently based in Austria. It's Tuesday and I had a lovely Easter holiday. I feel quite refreshed, and I am very much looking forward to firstly share all my experiences and knowledge with all of you, and also, getting new ideas, getting new information from this panel. And I will definitely check out all the other interesting upcoming sessions to get a good overview. I am Sustainability Manager at Umdasch. My colleague Michael Ripfl also joins me today. And basically the last year as Sustainability Manager, I've been trying to keep up with all the projects that have already been initiated in the company. And I try to find a holistic view of our strategic outline. Where are we and where do we want to go? And I try to initiate projects, but also company-wide goals and measures to really transform the business and transition to a more sustainable business future.
Thank you very much, Theresa. And it's up to this point to move to Michael, your colleague. Michael, can you briefly introduce yourself and your role at Umdasch?
Good afternoon, aus Dubai. This is where I'm based, actually, representing the Umdasch Group for the travel retail business. What does this mean? I'm the link between the travel retail operators and the brands with the Umdasch manufacturing facility. We have our hubs all over Europe and here in Dubai in the Middle East, where we are manufacturing and where we, for example, are giving the service to duty-free operators in airports like in Amman, in Bahrain, in Muscat, in Abu Dhabi, and in Europe at locations like, for example, in Berlin, in Frankfurt lately. And also we are working together a lot with international brands like from different kind of categories. So I'm looking also forward to a very interesting meeting today and session today, because sustainability is a big topic for us in the holistic approach, how the Umdasch Group is living it, but certainly also in the way how we manufacture our furnitures and turn projects around.
Thanks, Michael. Really keen to hear about Umdasch's holistic approach to sustainable store design. We'll move now to Tracy. Tracy at Rianta.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, Luke and Michael, for inviting me on the panel for the second year in a row. Good to see some of my fellow colleagues, second year in a row as well. So I'm Tracy Ross, Projects and Design Manager for Rianta International, based in Bahrain. I've been with the company for almost 18 years, predominantly focused on Middle East projects, but over the past 10 years inputting into our ARI global business development projects, securing new businesses. I'm also sustainability champion for the Middle East and am a recently certified LEED Green Associate with US Green Building Council. So design is my first passion, but sustainability is my most recent passion. And for those of you who've worked with me know that it's a topic I am extremely passionate about. So look forward to the after session. Thank you, Luke.
Thanks very much, Tracy. Now we'll move to Peter at Mindset. Peter.
Yes, hello, good morning from Jamaica. Normally I'm not in Jamaica because Mindset is based in Switzerland, but I'm on holidays here, and congratulations to your business to be able to recruit me to participate in this, because it's 5:30 in the morning, my holiday, so but I'll try to do my best to share the consumer insights. So Mindset was founded 15 years ago, and we are providing the travel retail industry with marketing intelligence. So mainly we are the voice of the consumer. We conduct interviews with shoppers around the world on a regular basis. We have over 115 clients, which we just surpassed, which is kind of a funny number considering we just turned 15 years. And we are very pleased to participate in this session. And as I said, we are kind of feeling the pulse of the consumer all the time. And we have really realized how important sustainability has become for the traveling consumer, and I'm happy to share those latest insights in a few minutes with all of you.
Thanks very much, Peter. And last but by no means least, Hugo.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Hugo. I'm in charge of Altavia Travel Retail. So we are a consultancy and design firm working with landlords and hub operators with duty-free and F&B operators, and with brands. And we are lucky to be in this position to work with the three main stakeholders of the TR industry, because we can really feel the pulse of the importance of sustainability. And we wanted to share with you some insight and some feedback we get from our clients and some demands we get these days on how sustainability has changed for the last 12 months.
Okay, thank you very much, Hugo. So before we deep dive into our discussion, we're going to, as Peter's already elucidated, hear from him. He's going to present some insights on the importance of sustainability and travel shopping. So without further ado, Peter, I'll hand over to you at this point.
All right, just share my screen with you. Now I should also all be able to see my screen. So what we did, we conducted a survey earlier this year regarding sustainability aspects, and one of the parts that we covered was their expectations and the satisfaction with the sustainability efforts in travel retail. So we conducted this research around the world, and I will share some main insights with you. I just need to go down one chart, correct, and then good. So we can see the attitude and the perception of sustainability aspects has really changed throughout the last 2 years, throughout the pandemic. And we realized that more than 8 out of 10 travel retail shoppers actually are concerned about living in a sustainable way, which means not only necessarily only relating to travel retail shopping, but the whole living. So it's regarding how what kind of products do I buy in my daily life? What kind of car do I drive? How do I travel? How do I shop? How do I take care of my garden? And we have seen that this the whole aspect of sustainability has become a much more important aspect. People are much more concerned about the world, and this is a very, very high number. We were quite impressed to see. We can then also see that around 81% of the travelers are concerned about shopping in a sustainable way. So it means not only in their whole lifestyle, but when they go and purchasing goods in any part of their life, sustainability becomes a relevant aspect, which is quite an impressive number. And out of 3 out of 4 of international travels actually also pay great attention to sustainability when they are shopping in travel retail. And this is something which is a big change compared to how it used to be before. Because in the past, much less people were interested in
Not sure if we've lost Peter momentarily. We'll try and wait to see if he returns.
Connection in Jamaica might be a little unstable,
Yeah.
But we'll wait for a couple of minutes before we get back in.
We'll wait for Peter to come back. It might be worth at this point going straight to our panelists and maybe taking a bird's eye view here and ascertaining how your sustainability strategies at a corporate level is influencing your approaches to store design. And we can pick up on some of the data points that Peter will be sharing, hopefully in due course. But perhaps let's start with Umdasch and Theresa. Theresa, would you like to give some background really on the company and how, as I said, you've approached and are applying your sustainability strategy at corporate level to travel retail specifically?
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to. So actually the company Umdasch exists for more than 150 years, and we are still a company owned by the private. So we have 2 owners from the family Umdasch, that's where the name comes from. And I think this is very unique. So we do not feel the pressure from, the big shareholders, the big stakeholders. But we do feel and do see the change in, let's say, the society. We do see that a lot of our customers, which are brands all over the world are very keen on information regarding sustainability. So they have been asking, you know, or they're really looking at Umdasch and asking, what are you doing for the environment? Yeah, what are you doing as an employer? And what's your strategy? So I've been with Umdasch for a year, and I try to keep up with the different initiatives. We do have more than 20 locations where we do operate. We do have different production sites all over the world, in Europe, but also in Middle East. So you can only imagine that my daily business is very, very broad and very, yeah, let's call it diverse. And basically what's my personal approach, which I then apply to Umdasch regarding sustainability, is I try to lead, let's call it a transition. I understand that we cannot change what we do fundamentally. We cannot change what we produce fundamentally and start from the scratch, let's say, a green company. But what we can do is specifically look at what we do and how we can make our operations more sustainable and safer for the employees and safer for the environment. So that's in a nutshell the big topic and big challenge from my side.
Thanks, Theresa. Yeah, there's certainly lots to unbox there. I might just shift to Hugo at this point to get a top line view. Hugo, obviously Altavia works with a broad cross section of different stakeholders, you know, airport operators, retailers. Can you just give us a perspective on the same question, how you're approaching the concept of sustainable store design using Altavia's learnings, and crucially, how has that changed in the past 12 months, particularly as international travel was unlocked and we're scaling up capacity now?
Yeah, for sure. I think last time we were together on this forum and we spoke about sustainability, and we started to think about what are the problematics of the different stakeholders. And I think things have really changed for the last 12 months. I mean, for the last 12 months, we did projects in Latin America, in Europe, in Asia, and I think in all these territories, we had to speak sustainability because it was part of the requirements from our clients. And that's fairly new. I would say 2 years ago, sustainability was much less of a topic. And now it is on every project. So that, I think, just the fact that it's a topic is a big shift. The other thing is, I remember last year, we had a conversation about the cost of doing sustainable design and manufacturing sustainable stores, as well as the issue of the end of life. And the end of life of the duty free, we had this conversation with brands, with duty free operators, and what can we do to mitigate both the cost of doing this and what do we do at the end of duty free stores. So we did a study with Rianta here and with Umdasch, and the idea was to put on the table a duty-free operator, a contractor, a manufacturer, and a designer, and to say, okay, what if we were doing a furniture which is maybe more durable, which has a solution for end of life, but which is also more cost-effective. And we worked on this pilot project with Umdasch and Rianta, looking at what will be the impact on the planet if we were designing furniture which are cost-effective, have an end-of-life solution, and which are sustainable. So that's a study we did. If you want, we can share the conclusions of this study now, because I think it's interesting to see that the problem is not easy. Designing sustainably is really not easy, and it depends what you have in mind when you say sustainability. And I think sustainability has a different meanings for many people, and we need to first, before we talk sustainability, we need to say, okay, what is your sustainable objective? Because sustainability is too vague and too undefined. And I think this is one thing that, yes, now it's great. We talk about sustainability and it's in every brief, but I think the next step really is to put more KPIs, more criteria of what do we want to achieve sustainably here for this project? Because too often we still get brief where we say sustainability will be important in the evaluation of your project. Yeah, but what does that mean? Sustainability, when we look at your conference, you are addressing at least 10 topics on sustainability. But the idea is when we work as designers or when we work like Umdasch as contractors, what is the KPI? What is the sustainable objective we're after? Is it CO2? Is it protecting the ocean? Is it protecting the diversity? And all this calls for different solutions. And that's really, I think, something that the industry need to work on now. The topic is on the table, is defining the topic in a better way with more defined KPIs. And we are here to help. And today we are going to present a case study that's really explained that there are different facets to sustainability.
Yeah, that's a really important point to make, Hugo. There are indeed many different definitions, and the importance that we ascribe to sustainability as a concept means different things to different stakeholders. And with that, I think we're probably going to turn back to Peter. It looks like he's rejoined us, thankfully, from Jamaica. So we're going to hear a little bit more about the data and what consumers are looking for from sustainable brands. So we'll turn back to Peter at this point. Peter.
Yes, thank you, Luke. Sorry about that, but my computer decided has a life of its own. But now we should be all set to go. Exactly, wonderful. So let me just make sure I'm on the right chart. Yes. Like we just heard, also there are so many different aspects to sustainability, and what I would like to share with you is different comments and different parts of it that we have seen from different parts of the world. And we can see that for example, in Americas, people are especially concerned about the brands for their CSR practices and policies before purchasing. So they do want to have information about how the brands behave and how active they are in this kind of matters. In Asia Pacific, we have seen that almost 8 out of 10 would purchase more for goods that are sustainably produced and packaged. So that part of the sustainability is especially important for them. In China, we know there are very special consumers who inform themselves a lot before they shop. They're a lot online. They're the most informed travel retail shoppers in the world. And they especially pay attention to the communication around the sustainability and recyclability of the brands they purchase. So again, very, very different depending on where they come from. Then we have in Europe, 75% pay attention to and are influenced by brands who are communicating about the, wait a second. Wait. And influenced by the brand's communication of recyclable products and packaging. Whereas in Middle East and Africa, you have a little bit more than 3 out of 4 are willing to pay more for brands that demonstrate sustainable practices in the packaging and production. And in a moment, I will share a bit more about the aspect of costs and how willing people are to actually pay a little bit more when they see some sustainability activities from the brands they're purchasing from. And this is a very impressive number that I found, that 87% of the travelers said that believe that sustainable values are important for a brand image. And we have done a lot of research in the last years about which aspects are important for the image of a brand. And the sustainability was on a relatively low, or pretty far down the scale compared to other aspects. And it's very, very impressive to see that almost 9 out of 10 say that this is an important aspect, that the values of the company do impact the brand image. So this is quite a good news for everybody involved in this in the sessions this week, that it's not only an effort done, but it's also highly appreciated by the shoppers. And we see that the numbers are even higher among those who are frequent travelers. Those are typical people who have a higher education, who travel a lot for business, and then they're even more into seeing that the sustainable values are really important for a brand image. And then we also asked, would you be willing to pay more for sustainable products? And 3 out of 4 say yes. Only 1/4 is hesitant about this aspect. And actually the majority of these people are ready to pay up to 15% premium, some even a bit more, but this is basically the range that they're willing to pay for. This I also find very interesting when you see the actual factors when considering products purchasing in duty-free. So we asked them, what are the 3 most important aspects when you purchase a product, an item in travel retail when you travel? And of course, brand and price are number 1, and they will probably always be. But then already on third place, we see sustainability, which is quite surprising to from my perspective, because I was expecting that promotions have always been in the top aspect, or also that the duty-free exclusive limited editions has been on the top. But due to the pandemic and the changes of the attitudes in the last 2 years, we can see that sustainability is among the top 3 factors when choosing an actual product. And even 15% mentioned this as a number 1 factor when considering buying a product in duty-free. So a very, very impressive number, I think. And it's of course also important to understand which kind of sources of information are used when travel retail shoppers inform themselves about the sustainability of the brands. And here we can see, which is also actually fits quite well into today's theme, that the visuals, the signage that they find in the store or around the product, or QR codes where they can inform themselves, or anything kind of information that they can find in the store to easily help locate sustainable products are the number 1 source. The second and third source have the same percentage at 44%. So, but also again in the store, advertising in the store showing sustainable credentials, some of the products really has a very important source of information, but also then the brand's websites at 44% as well. But again, in the store is when people really would like to see some more information, and this is especially relevant for the first 2 that I mentioned for females we've seen, and for younger millennials, the numbers are even higher. Then when we talk about the expectations of sustainability offering inside the travel retail environment, we can see this number has also climbed a lot in the last 2 years. So we can see 79% of the duty-free shoppers expect to find a space dedicated to sustainable products in duty-free shops. So ideally, they would like to, when they come into duty-free shop, they would like to see a dedicated area, dedicated information stand or products in the duty-free shops, because some of them are only looking for products like this. So it would be helpful for them if they could be guided into this area to, maybe like we saw in the past, that the main brands usually attract or define certain areas of duty-free shop. I think sustainability can be something that can be very appealing and very important for the travel retail shoppers. So this is something to worth thinking about, also something we can discuss in our session this morning or today. And many also find that around 50%, around half the people find it particularly important that the brands offer the following type of products. So the number 1 would be the products with an eco-friendly ingredients. That's something that they would like to see more of. And also products with an eco-friendly packaging and products with an eco-friendly production process. So these are the key aspects that they would like to see. And then this would be good to have this demonstrated and visually easy to find in a duty-free shop at the airports. We asked the travelers as well, if you consider your last trip, and because quite many people haven't traveled very much in the last 2 years. So we asked them to consider the current offering that they remember seeing in travel retail shops. And surprisingly, I must say 74% said that they are satisfied with the current offering. And especially the frequent travelers and older millennials were happy with what they could see. And this is a big number upwards, because I remember we conducted something similar 2-3 years ago, and the satisfaction levels were like somewhere in the 20s. So that's a huge increase. So they can really notice that the more brands and more activities are being done. But there's still over a quarter of the travelers who were not satisfied with the current offering. And this is mainly because they thought there was not enough choice available, not enough brands offering sustainable products, and also a bit of a lack of communication. So they couldn't really inform themselves the way they wanted to, or it was kind of hard to find aspects of sustainability when informing themselves. Or 42% said that some brands are not doing enough efforts. They would like to see more engagement in this area from the brands. And around 1/5 said that they don't really trust in brand sustainability claims. So this is also something that is important to make sure that the travelers believe it's authentic and it's real what they're doing. And I think this is also a cultural thing. In some regions of the world, there's less trust in actually what brands or companies claim to do. So again, here it's very, very important to communicate this very, very clearly. And we had a little bit more of an in-depth or more deep conversation about what they actually would like to see, what kind of improvements would they like to see from brands to become more sustainable. And overall, again, it's quite much in line what we saw just before regarding the numbers, that 75% of duty-free shoppers believe that brands are making more efforts compared to 2 years ago and do perceive these efforts as credible. So that's actually quite good news that the majority do see it and also see it as credible. So I think we're in a good path here. And the main areas where improvement could be made from the consumer's point of view would be in the area of the manufacturing processes. And we'll discuss this throughout the week at this Sustainability Week, but that's one that was mentioned the most frequently. And then also regarding the ingredients used, it was mentioned as a second most important aspect that could be improved. And then we also have fair trade sourcing of ingredients, followed quickly after that, and the actual packaging, which used to be quite high up in the list, but now other aspects are actually even more important than that, because in the few years ago, packaging was basically the only thing people were associating with sustainability, at least some part of the people, and now this is going a little bit further down and in the list. And then you have also the promotional materials used in store, so the displays, the advertising, the different aspects, and the lighting and things, and like recyclable products that are being used. It's also being paid attention to. So we know that some providers are actually focusing very much on this, and you can see that actually about a third of the people do pay attention to this. And then last but not least, also giving back to local communities. And we think that we have always understood that the sense of place, the local touch, is important for travel retail travelers. So I think any retailer or airport who can communicate what they're giving back to the local communities in the region where they are based, will actually help to add this sense of place, but also will help to show that they're engaged in investing and then supporting the local communities. So these are all aspects that are really important in the consumers' minds. The last question we asked them, quite hands-on, really, what are actually the shopping bag preferences when they travel, when they shop in travel retail? And 3 out of 4 would be happy to pay for a reusable non-plastic bag, and but still quite a significant amount of people say that they would continue using airport shop bags without paying extra. They don't really are not, for them it's more convenient, and or some of them actually try to take a bag, but actually put it directly in their carry-on suitcase. But then the third one would be to pay for a usable plastic bag, and the fourth would be to bring your own usable shopping bag, what more and more people actually are trying to do. Still quite uncommon, but it's happening more, that people are actually paying attention to that even when they are traveling. So these were just some the most important aspects of what's going on in the minds of the travel retail shoppers. And then I would like to hand back over to Luke and Michael to continue moderating the session. And thank you for your attention regarding these insights.
Thanks a lot, Peter. There's a real variety and richness of data there, and lots of statistics, some really positive stuff there, actually. I'm keen to gauge the reaction first and foremost from our panelists to some of that data. Perhaps I can pick on someone first. Tracy, I'll come to you.
Well, Peter, some amazing insights there. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. I think that document is definitely something I'm going to be using internally immediately with our operations, and really surprised to see that those 85% numbers out there. Just the fact that such a huge percentage of customers are now conscious, not only conscious, but looking for sustainable products and solutions, will impact us as a retailer immediately from a master planning perspective. So that your 85% number there immediately justifies why, when I'm looking at planning, I need to dedicate specific zones to call out sustainability initiatives and dedicate areas to products that are meeting the sustainable USPs. So that, firstly, thanks, Peter, that will go a long way to justifying the need for dedicated areas. It is something that we noticed ourselves already. The interest in customers, the awareness has grown, especially over the past year, and it's something we've addressed and written into our own ESG strategy, and are starting to apply it into our store designs, especially new store designs. I'm starting to dedicate sustainability zones into our existing stores that perhaps don't have as much space that's required. We're converting our HPP or our promotional areas into zones that are then communicating to our customer what we are doing in terms of sustainability. I think the easiest thing for us to do, and what we addressed immediately over the past year, was to call out those brands that were already ticking the boxes in terms of sustainability and allow them to be the heroes and provide them allowing them to feature in these dedicated zones. We also addressed communication immediately, and to your point, Peter, on customers are wanting to see sustainability communicated. It's something we addressed immediately in our signage, calling out those brands that were meeting sustainable USPs. And now we in fact launched a campaign which we called Little Changes, Big Differences, which we dedicated to suppliers meeting sustainable USPs, but are now extending it to our wider strategy. So Peter, I think that document is going to go a long way in terms of planning, communicating, and also, very importantly, when you communicate in sustainability to your customers, is also getting their feedback, I think is very important, and allowing them to interact on your e-commerce platforms as to what they feel about what you're doing and how you've progressed. Because I think that's important, is also to monitor, call out what you're doing, but monitor progressions of customer interaction. Thanks a lot for that.
Tracy, we saw that statistic there, 75% of consumers prepared to pay more for sustainable products. From a brand's perspective, is investing in those sustainable practices, be it packaging, be it the background, the philosophies of the brands from a planet people perspective, as we heard earlier, is that now a prerequisite to being listed with ARI? And has that changed significantly over the last year?
It's not a written prerequisite at the moment, Luke, to be honest, but it is certainly something that the brands themselves are recognizing. I believe it was just back to Peter's point about are customers prepared to pay a little bit more. We recently in Cyprus ran a campaign about, do I need a bag? And it was interesting to see how many people are willing to pay extra. So yes, there is certainly more awareness, and no, it's not a prerequisite, but it's something that brands themselves are recognizing and doing automatically, which is good to see.
Peter touched on there that obviously that 85% figure was really, really important, but another figure that was quite important was that 79% that is dedicated, 79% of consumers expect dedicated spaces for sustainable products, as we've heard, and the importance placed on that. I want to turn now, I think, to Hugo and Theresa. Are these messages chiming with you in terms of the conversations you're having with your partners when it comes to conceiving store layouts, working through those designs, that importance placed on dedicated aisles? Perhaps I can turn to Hugo first, answer that.
Yeah, I wanted to share just one small example on this topic. Last year, we produced a super sustainable gondola that was exhibited in Cannes. And the idea was to make the most sustainable display ever. So it was just a pilot. But Andrew Baker from ARI, who is managing Cyprus Duty Free, picked up on the idea and shipped that gondola in Cyprus Duty Free, and he's using it today to display more sustainable products. And he's calling out the fact that this gondola is about more sustainable products, with some visual signages, and even the gondola itself is telling its own story, saying that it is a super sustainable gondola using more recycled materials, la la la. So really, and what Andrew did is really he called out the sustainability of the product as well as of the display where the products are showcased. And from his feedback, he gets a lot of interest from the customers looking at what is this, why is this sustainable? And because of the way he has implemented it in the store, it really catches the attention. So this really goes with what Peter was presenting, which is shoppers are looking for more sustainable products. And by doing this kind of small initiative, Andrew is really demonstrating that it has an impact in the store. So I think it's definitely the case that in our projects, we dedicate more and more space to sustainable products. This is just a small example in Cyprus Duty Free, but we've done it in projects in Norway, where we had much bigger spaces dedicated to sustainable products. And I think this is true. The shoppers are a bit confused, and Duty Free, we know, are filled with a lot of merchandising. So helping them, and they don't have much time, those shoppers. We are all aware of the golden hour. So you have 1 hour maximum to shop. You need to find easily what you're looking for. So definitely helping them finding the products that are more sustainable. And the cherry on the cake is to use sustainable display, more sustainable design, more sustainable stores to showcase those products. This really creates, I think, a right story to tell to our customers.
Hugo, I was going to ask Tracy that you had your hand up there. I was going to ask you, is that something that Rianta will roll out across the network, at least Rianta Middle East?
Well, it was interesting how one little gondola has kicked off a bigger discussion, because we then said to Hugo, well, surely the DNA of this gondola could become, you know, the DNA of our generic furniture in going forward. And that has resulted in a collaboration between ODG and Umdasch and ourselves, looking at developing a new range of generic furniture that is more sustainable, that's got less material, that's got reduced embodied carbon footprint, and has a longer life cycle. So this little gondola, which now sat in Cannes, moved to Larnaca, it has kicked off a greater discussion and is work in progress.
Yeah, and a couple of points on that one. I will look forward to seeing that when we all convene in Cyprus for the Travel Retail Consumer Forum later this year in September. So we should have that as a live demo, I think, Hugo, when we're there. But what more importantly is what is the airport saying about it? Are they engaged? Are they aware? And are they encouraging you, both Altavia, Hugo, and Rianta, to do more of this? Tracy.
So at an airport level, I think Cyprus was actually one of the very, very first airports back in 2008, if I remember, that started to talk about certification. It was one of our very, very first airports, in fact, and sustainability. But it was never really heavily imposed upon us, the concessionaire. But of late, and I think, as someone mentioned earlier, definitely over this COVID and over the last year, everybody has woken up. So yes, they are very much interested in it. Obviously, Cyprus is aligned with EU regulations, so they are probably a lot more up to speed with sustainability and environmental awareness. So yes, very, very interested in what we're doing in regards to sustainability. And they themselves are looking at opening up their solar parks. So we look forward to Larnaca being able to shift over to renewable energy, which will be a big shift in our operation and big saving on our electricity bills.
Excellent. And Hugo, over to you on that note. Since Cannes and now at Cyprus Duty Free, are you seeing increasing demand from airports and retailers?
Well, when it comes to the landlords, I have to say I don't feel like we had a huge improvement, unfortunately, because it's true that we know in our industry a critical time is when we have the concession tenders happening. This is when the duty-free operators will design the spaces based on the criteria that have been set by the airports. And the winning bidders will then build and operate the stores. So this concession tender is a very important time in the kind of sustainability life of a store, because this is when everything is decided during these concession tenders. these concession tenders are usually super short. We have a very little time to design big airport spaces. And this is when many decisions are being taken. I feel like at the moment, there is not a huge drive towards sustainability during these concession tenders because we are short in time and short in information. Short in information because the one who is setting the rules is the airport owner, the landlord, and they are the one who are imposing on the duty-free operators certain rules and regulations, including sustainability. And too many times we only have a vague sentence, which is sustainability of the design will be a key criteria of the assessment or of your ranking. But like I said, sustainability means nothing. The owner of the airport knows what is sustainably important for his airport, and he should put the right criteria in order for the bidders to design toward the right sustainable KPIs. And I feel like at the moment it's too much in the air, and yes, let's do sustainability without enough guidance and without enough time, because it takes time to assess what is really sustainable for a certain airport. What is sustainable in Bali airport might not be sustainable in Portugal airports, and vice versa. And this is where I feel like we are rushing the design stages of duty frees, where we could do much better with a bit more time and data and information.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, and I'm going to bring in Theresa on that one now. But you know, we see the ACI Toulouse declaration where all airports are signing up to carbon neutrality by 2025, or what, I forget the actual year, deadlines 2030 perhaps. But in that Toulouse declaration, there is absolutely no mention at all of retail commercial aspects of the airport operations, which are an increasingly important part in terms of the overall revenues. So it's a bit of a dilemma for companies who are investing in sustainability when the airports aren't pushing it enough as much as they should do. Thankfully, we do have airports on this week and involved in this event who are pushing it, which is great to see. But let's take that over to Umdasch, Theresa and Michael, and get your take on how, both from what you've heard from Peter in terms of the consumer insights, but also from the airport's perspective, how are you being influenced in your more sustainable build and design?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I think it's really interesting that Peter's study is very interesting because it tells me a story. It tells me there are so many people out there who are aware of sustainability and who want to act in a sustainable way, shop in a sustainable way, live in a sustainable way. What is interesting is they seem to be values really centered in the individual, because they don't leave their values behind when they travel. It might be a business trip, it might be holidays, but they don't, you know, holiday is usually a time associated with, you know, joy, forget work, forget, you know, leave all the waste behind. But the study really tells me acting sustainability isn't seen as a burden, but as a chance. And during the travels, the people want to also shop and act sustainably. It is really interesting. It tells me a lot about, you know, the topic is centered in the values of the society, and I really appreciate this a lot. And another topic which has been touched is the building as a whole. For me, it totally makes sense to say the airport as one building. I know I'm kind of have the outside perspective. Maybe you're very focused on your duty-free areas and what's not included in this maybe might not concern you as much. But for me, I always try to approach a project with a really broad view. It is important how the airport building is heated. It is important where the electricity for the whole building comes from. Do you need cooling refrigerants? Do you need to cool down the building? Is there a way to even build or improve the building in a sustainable way? So you need less heating, less cooling. So I myself, I view not only one duty-free store, not only the duty-free areas, but the whole building. And I can only underline what Hugo said. sustainability needs to be on the forefront of all planning. It needs to be in your mindset when designing a building, when designing a store, when thinking about the products you want to display, and it has to be a really authentic approach, and it has to show that the building operator, the landlord, the brand, the duty-free operator, they all align on the value of sustainability, and this should be the end goal, in my opinion.
And Theresa, what practical tips would you give to your partners and obviously our viewers to really increase the awareness, the communication around the holistic footprint of the airport and its sustainability measures that it may be implementing? Because obviously we hear a lot from a consumer perspective about, you know, using carbon calculators to calculate the costs of their journeys and trying to offset that. But actually in store, we hear very little, we see very little. So I know Umdasch has devised a CO2 calculator separately, but in terms of actually in store and perhaps, you know, at point of sale, is there some practical sort of tips maybe you can suggest?
I'd say data is key. And when you think of data, you need data on your electricity. Where does it come from? Is it from renewable sources or not? Do I have the possibility to switch to renewable source or not? Regarding, for example, a project, and also Hugo touched this topic, it is very important to get experts involved, because sustainability isn't a topic or shouldn't only be the goal, but planning in regards to sustainability goals or indicators is very important. So I'd say everybody who wants to, you know, start a journey, who wants to be more sustainable, get involved with the experts and get all the information you can get on electricity, but also, for example, materials. Inform yourself, what are sustainable materials? And then ask yourself the question, what is sustainability for me? What do I want to achieve? Is it a certification? And what does the parameters of the certification entail? Local sourcing, ethically sourcing or ethical sourcing, long-lasting materials, the use of recycling materials, the use of wood. There are so many aspects. So my question to every customer is, we can do what you want. Yeah, we can adapt. So what do you want? Tell us what you want and what you need. And we're there to help and support.
I want to bring Michael in at this point. Michael, we saw that from Peter's data, 75% of those shoppers believe brands are making more efforts compared to 2 years ago in terms of the communication around sustainability. From what you are seeing in your conversations with your partners in travel retail, can you shed some light on whether that statistic chimes with those conversations?
Yeah, following in the footsteps what Theresa has started already, we are here to guide our clients and to give our experience what we have gained in the retail business for to the benefit of upcoming new projects. So I'm repeating ourselves now because Theresa has already highlighted some of the most important points, like our huge experience in terms of material, sustainable material, recycled material, reusable material, which gives a great impact to the retail design and the retail furnitures what we are delivering. But it's not only this case. The Umdasch Group, with its large manufacturing hubs all over Europe and the Middle East, are also giving putting a great concern on transport and possibilities that we are avoiding long distance transport facilities, that we are having on-the-spot manufacturing hubs where we can also reuse, recycle existing shop fittings. A great example would be for right on our doorstep where I'm sitting. We have furnished the Australian and American pavilion, as well as the official duty-free stores for the expo, with materials which we have just leased to our Australian client, and which we are now taking back after the expo has finished, after an incredible 6 months of success. So we are taking the furniture back, cleaning it, reusing it, reselling it to our clients, or re-renting it to our clients. So most probably there will be new momentums with pop-up stores, etc. Another thing is, for example, that the UAE and India have in plan a trade agreement between these two countries. So UAE being so close to India, which will also allow us now to extend our footprint into the Indian continent, and specifically also in travel retail business, what I'm really looking forward to.
You mentioned materials there, Michael. Are you seeing an evolution in terms of the type of materials that are being used for store fit outs, be it natural origin, recycled, locally sourced, biodegradable? Are we evolving as an industry? Is there enough scope and scale in terms of what we're sourcing?
I will continue with the answer to your question, Luke, which was in terms of the material, and I can say 150%. We are definitely having a huge demand on sustainable and recycled material. So to go away from the classic materials what we have been using in shop fitting business over the last decades, that we are going more into the direction of recycled material. And I can say from brands and their tenders, what I have got on the table, that they are already including this kind of aspect in their BOQ. So they are willing to pay for it, mostly driven through the operators and the landlords. Thank you very much for these initiatives. But the brands are concrete looking into paying more for the material of their furnitures due to this sustainable issue.
Okay.
Which we underline as a sustainable thinking and living company for 100%.
I'd like to ask the same question to Hugo in terms of what you're seeing at Altavia, Hugo, that evolution of material selection. Michael points there to a lot more recyclable material. What are you seeing? What are your partners specifying? And yeah, I mean, has it changed fundamentally in the 12 months or so?
I wouldn't say it changed fundamentally in terms of requests from our clients, but the trend is definitely going toward less materials, less complications, and less, let's say, layers of materials. One, because it's less sustainable to source more materials, and also because it's very difficult to recycle when you have many layers of materials. So I think it's not really the clients who are enforcing this on us. It's more us taking this kind of initiative. And Tracy was mentioning the LEED certification, and this is something our designers are trained about as well. Is we try to design more and more toward the LEED principles, which look at materials, which look at air conditioning system, at space planning, at everything that can affect the sustainability of a store. But I would not say it's something imposed on us by brands. It's more something we try to bring to the table.
Okay. And is there a big variance? Presumably there is, if you're, conducting and hosting be it a small pop-up or a wall bale gondola versus a much bigger experience-led activation. Talk about LEED there, implying the principles. Is there a sort of base point that you would take to address that depending on the scale of the activation?
Let's say the common sense will tell you that the more you reuse, the better. So for sure, when you do big pop-up stores, which are single use and they go to the landfill after, that's the worst you can do. So definitely reusing as much as possible delivers more sustainable results. However, to reuse something, you need to make sure it is built with a durability in mind. And not only durability, but with a possibility to refurbish or to change the aesthetic. And maybe now is the time to share the study we've done, because it's exactly on this topic, how we can make furniture more reusable, more easy to refurbish, and less harmful to the planet.
Okay, sure.
So I'll share this because it is exactly the conclusion we had last year. I don't know if you remember. Can you see what I'm showing?
Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
So last year when we did the super sustainable gondola, we made it like 0 carbon impact. We made it 100% made of recycled material. But the conclusion was, 1, it is 30% more expensive, and 2, it is not as durable as a full-fledged, strong gondola. So this year we decided to conduct another study, which was to do furniture which are more durable and also cost-effective. So the study is about how cost-effective, durable, and recyclable design impact planet, cost, aesthetic. And because we know that it's a big topic for the brands, and this is a conversation we have a lot with big PNC brands, is how do we, let's say, repurpose or recycle our furniture at the end of their lifetime. And this was the purpose of this study: cost-effective, durable, recyclable. So we designed this furniture, and this study here compare this new furniture, which is ticking all these boxes, and it compare it with a regular wood type of furniture. So the design we've done is about less materials, increased durability, less electrical equipment, low shipping volume, recyclable. So recyclable means we can dismantle and we can then recycle the different raw materials, and flexible and easy to refurbish. And this is applicable to pop-up, which what you were saying, Luke, as well as to permanent furniture. And we've done this exercise, and this is kind of the design we came up with, which is a steel structure. And too many times I heard from clients, are steel furniture more sustainable? I would say the answer is yes and no, and we are going to see this here. Wood is not more sustainable. Steel is not more sustainable. It depends how you use it and for how long you use it. And this is what makes a big difference. Also, this panel cladding. So this furniture, you can easily change the look and the feel, changing the panels. It is all mechanical fixing. So there is no chemical glue. It's easy to dismantle, easy to recycle. It only has 4 materials, which makes it more sustainable because we have less raw materials and less sources. Also, it's flat pack assembly, so it takes more volume, and it's also lighter because steel structure is lighter than full wood structure. So all these are the kind of design principles we have used to design this more durable, recyclable, and cost-effective piece of furniture. So you might say, yes, but it has also to look good and to suit every type of categories and brand positioning. So let's say this is our main structure, but you can really design it with different look and feel. Here, let's say it's for electronic products. Or here it could be for PNC brand, a bit more premium finishes. Or here we might say it's for liquor. So the idea is to design this sustainable furniture, but to make sure it is flexible and it is also customizable to suit different brand positioning or different category requirements. As you can see, we can put a drawer, no drawer, we can put a back panel, no back panel, we can have different height of shelving, etc., etc. So the goal was to do, what if we could do furniture which are super durable, super flexible, and cost-effective. So this is the design exercise we did. And then we looked at, okay, how could this work in the different formats? Because wall unit is great, but you have tables, towers, dump bins, and of course we did the exercise on every single format to see if our principles and our design principles were applicable to different requirements in the store. Then I will pass the mic to Theresa, because Theresa, she worked on sustainable assessment of this design and to see, okay, is this design sustainable? And like we said at the beginning of this call, sustainability is all about what is your KPI, what kind of sustainability you're after, because there are many objectives. Theresa, you want to elaborate maybe on this?
Yeah, thank you, Hugo. So as he mentioned, we were looking for one indicator, for us to shed light on, and we defined basically the CO2 emissions as the indicator we want to assess. What we've been doing in this study is we've been collecting, let's call it the input data. So we've been collecting data on different shelving to be able to draw a comparison. Once again, also, you know this, I don't have to tell you, sustainability has so many different shades. It's about people and planet also, so we don't have to look at the people. But in this specific case, we really try to focus on the environmental impact on the CO2 emissions. Thank you, Hugo. And what we've been trying, or what we've been doing is we've worked with the input data, so how much of which material is used, square meter, kilogram, and so on. So what's the baseline? What's the list of materials we use for a shelving unit? And then, and this is a really important step, we defined what is the scope we assess and what is not within the scope. So, for example, we have not been focusing on transport as much or on the packaging material, but for example, only on the shelving unit. And I want to highlight this. It is very important. You cannot get a 100% perfect picture on everything, but you get a feeling, you get a broad overview, and then work with this data. So we've been working with a database which is accessible to public, which is the Ökobaudat. It is known in basically Germany and also Austria. And this is a database where you have easy and cost-free access to life cycle data. And basically you get information on the different life cycle phases of a material. So please bear in mind on material basis. So basically, if you have information, what amount of CO2 emissions does my wood material emit? What CO2 emissions does the steel emit? Then it's basically easy calculating to get the information on the CO2 emission. And I think, Hugo, if you'd like to go on to the next slide, where we show information on the input. If there are any questions from the audience, I'm happy to answer them afterwards, but I'll let you go on, Hugo, for a moment.
Yeah, thank you, Theresa. So as Theresa said, we looked at global warming potential, which is CO2 equivalent. We didn't look at the exhaustion of natural resources, at the ocean pollution, at the acidification and eutrophication potential, which are all, let's say, threats to the planet, but they are different threats. What we looked at is only CO2. But obviously, depending on what solution you bring, they will be more impactful on CO2 rather than impactful on ocean pollution, etc., etc. So it's really about what you are after in your sustainable goals. You cannot have one solution fits all. You have to make compromise. The only best solution is to do nothing. And obviously, that's not the objective here, is to do what is more sustainable for a certain KPI. So we look at global warming as our KPI here, our objective, sorry. So here it is. So this is the result of the study. And on the left, we have a wall unit, which is a wall unit you might find in many duty-free around the world, which is mainly made of wood, a bit of steel, and some acrylic here and there. This regular wall unit. On the right is our new design, which is super durable, super flexible, and cost-effective. And this is the result of the study in the middle. You can see that on the left is the KPIs for the regular wall unit, and on the right, the KPIs for the sustainable metal unit. What we can see is the number of materials. First, we are using 3 times less materials to manufacture this wall unit compared to this one here. The other element which is important is the weight. This wall unit on the right has a weight of 66 kg, which is much lighter than the weight of the one on the left. And weight has a big impact on transportation. The other impact we can see is the paint. To manufacture the one on the left, you are using much more paint. And paint is obviously harmful to the planet. It's a chemical, so it's harmful to the biodiversity and to the ocean, when maybe for the CO2 assessment, it is less harmful. Recyclability, and that's a big one. The wall unit on the left, you can recycle 30 kilograms out of 66. So 30 kilograms can be directly recycled, where on the left-hand side, you can only recycle 6.3 kg. The very important figure here is to look at CO2 emission. And this is where, when we say, is metal more sustainable, yes or no, it's yes and no. Because the CO2 emission of this wall unit here is 155 kilograms versus 69 for the regular wood furniture. So we can see that on the CO2 emission, which is global warming KPIs, the wall unit on the right is more harmful to the planet. And in terms of cost, it is cost effective. But what we just want to say about cost is it doesn't cost more to do this one versus the regular one. But all this study is based on one store cycle, no refurbishment. And this is where metal is very, very efficient. Here we can see that in most of the KPIs, metal is more sustainable. However, on the most important KPI, which is CO2 emission, which is global warming factor, it is much more harmful to the planet because of the metal. The metal is emitting a lot of CO2 in its fabrication. But if we do the same analysis, but on 3 store cycles, let's say we have a duty-free, and after 6 years, we refurbish it, and then we refurbish it again. So when you refurbish stores, this is where the metal structure has a huge advantage. And we can see that after 2 refurbishments, the CO2 emission of a metal shelving is less than the CO2 emission of a traditional shelving. So when we go for refurbishment, metal is ticking all the boxes when it comes to sustainability. Less materials, there is a mistake here, it's not 6, it should be 4, sorry. But less materials, lighter, so less transportation, more recycled materials, and of course, less CO2 emissions. Because when you repurpose this furniture, you just clad new wooden panels and you refurbish it lightly. So this is where the conclusions we wanted to bring today to the audience is, following this study, we can say that first, sustainability depends on what KPIs you're after. Are you after a quick pop-up store in an airport looking only at global warming? Okay, you have solutions for that, which is mainly wood-based. Are you after a long-term duty-free design where you might refurbish it a couple of times? Then definitely metal is a go-to solution because it's less harmful to the planet in many, many factors. So that's what we wanted to discuss today, and to bring a factual analysis of what sustainable design means and what are the different conclusions if you go for one solution versus another, and the fact that we cannot just look in isolation at one project in a certain lifetime, but we have to look at the entire project, considering maybe refurbishment, maybe a new design and new look and feel. And this is where the solutions will help you achieve your objectives, but we need to understand what are the objectives of the client or of the particular project to bring the right solution. So this was quite technical, but for sure we can share this documentation with anyone. And the idea is to help people make the right decision when they start designing a travel retail project.
Thanks, Hugo. It's really, really detailed and, as you say, technical, but what struck me is really that flexibility and versatility in the approach to store design, and really having that shrewd approach and consideration for the life cycle of the materials you're using and the different fit outs. As you say, there's some differences. First with the sustainable store fixtures, but then when they're repurposed, reused, we're seeing that KPI, the CO2, come down. I want to turn to Tracy at this point. Tracy, to get your perspective. Obviously, we know that ARI updated their ESG strategy last year, and part of those pillars includes planet, driving efficiencies to reduce plastics waste and waste reduction and energy efficiency. But there's also a particular nod to new store builds and refurbishments. What can you tell us about this in the past 12 months? Can you give us some updates? And Chris Key, what KPIs are you working to when it comes to, for instance, as Hugo's elucidated, on repurposing furniture and fixtures, and how you're working through that cycle?
Right. So ARI released their ESG strategy April last year, and very soon after that, in the July of the same year, we launched our design and implementation guidelines, which is now becoming the foundation of all new projects and being applied to our existing operations as well. So coming back to a point that Hugo raised earlier on is when you go to tender, you're normally so rushed, and if you had KPIs in place, before the time, it would be a lot easier to design. And definitely in all the range of airports that we work in, there are still no set KPIs. I mean, they differ from every airport. And in ARI, I don't believe we should be waiting for airports to say, right, I want to be LEED Gold, LEED Platinum. I think we within the travel retail industry need to make a conscious move towards setting our own set of design and implementation guidelines, which is what we in ARI have done. So even if an airport is not going for LEED certification, so Hugo, you'll be glad to know that I have now a set of design guidelines with specific KPIs. Material sourcing, recycled material is going to be very important. And when I look to the likes of a manufacturer, and I know that Umdasch already has a library of sustainable materials, that's going to make my job a lot easier. And also more cost effective if those sustainable materials are already available in a library. In terms of design KPIs, life cycle analysis and an extended life cycle of stores and furniture is very important, which is why we've been working very closely with Hugo and Umdasch on this particular project. Now, it was interesting, that piece of furniture which we had designed last year for our Montenegro store was born out of the need of a cost-effective solution, right? Montenegro, for example, didn't have sustainable guidelines in place that they passed down to us, the concessionaire, and that piece was born out of a cost-effective requirement. But once we had launched our design and implementation guidelines, I stood back and I looked at this piece of furniture and I thought, right, it is more cost-effective and it provides us a more modular solution, because that was another ask of the design, that we came up with a solution that allowed for flexibility. We weren't quite sure which category we wanted to put where, and that design gave us flexibility. So we then took another step back and said, but hang on a second, there's actually less material, and automatically by less material, you know, it then ticks more boxes as Hugo indicated. So it's more cost effective, it's modular, and it allows us the flexibility to change. And what a very key, another key KPI for us, so besides an extended life cycle, is zero waste to landfill is going to be so important. Now we're seeing that more in our European airports, because that is written into government and country regulations, not so much in the Middle East. But because it's not in the Middle East yet, doesn't mean that we as a retail operator shouldn't be writing it into our KPIs. So just the bottom line of all of that, what I'm saying is, and I think Michael Barrett, you mentioned it earlier on about, I believe more and more airports are going to start to look towards carbon accreditation in the years going ahead. And there is this global ambition for zero carbon emissions by 2050. And I think we will start to see more airports becoming LEED, BREEAM or sustainability certified, and will start to filter that down to us, the concessionaire. And I don't believe we should wait for that to happen. I believe within the travel retail industry, we have a moral obligation to start writing those sustainable KPIs into our guidelines and not wait for the airports to impose them upon us. And I think that's what we should be doing as an industry.
I think if the airport, thanks for bringing that up and getting that, correcting me on the date there, 2050, Tracy. Yeah, and I think it's not just the airport, but as we heard from Peter, and you've all sort of agreed with his findings there, that it's the consumer that's going to be dictating this as well. And before a couple of questions came in for you, Peter, earlier on, but before I put those to you briefly, there was a question about whether your presentation would be made available to delegates after this. So Peter, I think that's okay that we share that with attendees. So that's great. We'll make that available online and by email afterwards. But very quickly, but coming back to you, Peter, there was a question about Chinese travelers. When it comes to mainland Chinese travelers, do you also see sustainability within the top 3 most important purchase factors? You had or the regional overview there, but what about the Chinese?
Within the Chinese, it was a little bit lower compared to the other numbers. I don't have all numbers in my head, but it was slightly lower. However, they do inform themselves more regarding this aspect, more than they did before. So it's also becoming increasingly important. it shows that even in let's say that in cultures or in regions of the world where we did not expect to see relatively high numbers, and they might be lower also, it's increasing dramatically since 2 years. And I think that's the key message, even if it's a bit lower here and there, that is really what matters. And I think that's important. And maybe what I would like to add, I think it's also really crucial that we share the activities done, like the things we just discussed now about shelves and how recyclable, and then in the aspects that we communicate that to the shoppers, because they will feel, there's always, not always, but very often a little bit of feel of guilt when traveling, you know, for various reasons. And if people already feel comfortable when entering a shop or walking around an airport and see what an airport, what a retailer, what a shop, what the brands do to take care of our planet, will make them feel more comfortable, make them happier, and will also engage more and consequently also maybe spend more in the shop, and maybe arrive early at the airport next time they travel, and choose this airport as a transit airport or as a destination in the future if they see the activity. So it's very, very important to communicate this in a very simple way to the shoppers, because at the end they are the ones investing the money. So that's one of the key messages I would like to leave before I hand back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Peter. Luke, do you want to ask the speakers to give the wrap up in their closing remarks, as you mentioned earlier on?
Yeah, we are just about out of time, I believe.
Yeah.
So we've got quite a lot to still cover, but we've had a really enthralling discussion, and thank you once again to all of you for being part of that. Obviously, a big thank you to our session sponsors, Diageo, Altavia, JTI, and Counter, part of the Blue Dog Group. Please join us tomorrow. Of course, we have another great session from 9 o'clock British summertime, where we've got a packed schedule for you all to enjoy. We've got a special 2-part edition of Planet and People, with sessions on health and well-being and diversity and inclusion, as I mentioned earlier, and Michael and Charlotte have alluded to. Plus, we've got the first of our groundbreaking sustainability pitches, which returns after its roaring success last year. And don't forget, it's available now to enter on a rolling basis throughout the year, and we'll provide some more information on how to get involved with that tomorrow. As Charlotte mentioned earlier, we have a bit of a first at our business, launched our inaugural travel retail sustainability e-zine that went live last week, and you should have links via the mailing campaigns. If you haven't already, you should receive them in future mailers. And we have a part of our website, travel retail trbusiness.com, I beg your pardon. We have a dedicated sustainability news section, so we'd encourage you to check back that and keep abreast of all the news as we work through the week. So, you know, just a few concluding remarks. You know, we've heard a great deal today from our panelists, some really, really interesting key takeaways, spanning sustainable store design and, you know, looking at the life cycle of furniture, how we're traversing the conversation between airports, retailers, brands, and how they're becoming involved in promoting more sustainable products. There's clearly, from Peter's research, as the evidence suggests, big steps being taken to engage with sustainable products and services. Clearly, more space expected for sustainable products in the aisles, and we've seen some of the metrics come through regarding satisfaction around the current offer. And again, there's plenty more to talk through. We've unfortunately run out of time, but want to thank all of you once again for your valid insights and input. And I'll hand back now to Michael for his closing remarks and any housekeeping notes.
Well, yeah, firstly, I mean, we did say at the firstly, we did say at the start, we'd like to get some feedback from all the participants on what your takeaways are from this session. As we said last year, there was some great initiatives covered and that led to closer collaboration between some of the stakeholders here. So looking back to what we've covered, despite technical issues during this session, can you start, Hugo, with saying how you think we as an industry need to be working forward better, more collaboratively, to provide a more sustainable overall holistic shopping experience for traveling consumers? And then we'll go to the others.
Look, that's a tough question because I think we're all trying to find a solution. So I'll just take my small conclusion will be, let's make sure that we are making informed decision and definitely trying to invent sustainability and letting people who are not experts in the topic make decisions will really affect the credibility of the industry. So we need to make sure that we make informed decision. And I really like what Peter said, which is sustainability can also help doing a more sense of place experience. And for sure, this can be done in many ways. It can be creative, can be fun, but I think sustainability do not have to be boring, and sustainability needs to be sense of place and fun to engage with our customers.
Thanks, Hugo. Michael, would you like to carry on?
Yeah, thank you very much. As a private company, the sustainability is in our DNA, and as an Austrian company, we love to live it. We are happy to be partnering up with the brands and the operators on future projects, living the sustainable way. Thank you.
Thank you. And Theresa?
Yeah, thank you. I'd suggest that, let me make a call to action. Let's work together. Let's not view sustainability as a topic of rivalry, but let's join in cooperation and all work together, as it is my strong belief that we can all be winners if we can turn the climate crisis around. Thank you.
Thanks, Theresa. Tracy.
Thanks, Michael. So I think we achieved, or we have achieved last year's initiative, which was collaboration. And I think there's a lot of us working together in the industry, which is encouraging. I think the travel retail industry is such a powerful platform for us to come together on common global initiatives, such as carbon and plastic offsetting initiatives. And I think rather than us doing it individually, I think if we could come together in the industry to work on common global initiatives, would be my one ask for this year. And then secondly is I would ask that our suppliers have a relook at their furniture and the total life, and review the life cycle analysis and zero waste to landfill. I'd really like to stop pulling furniture out every 2 years and look at longer life cycles. So that's something within the industry I really believe we need to have a very serious look at, is life cycle analysis and zero waste to landfill. And then finally, on an airport level, is to come together and agree perhaps on common sustainability KPIs that can then be passed down to us, the concessionaires, who in turn pass those down to the suppliers. I think that's something that needs to be looked at a global collaborative effort.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tracy. And finally, Peter, any final remarks?
I do think that I'm very impressed by this initiative of TR Business and this week and in the comments. And again, what I would like to highlight is let's try to communicate this to the shoppers and let's do it in a positive and an exciting and inspiring way. Because as we know that when people are traveling, they are more open, they have a different mindset, and they're open to new initiatives, and they will actually learn about this when they travel through an airport. And nowadays with the social media, they will share these positive initiatives regarding sustainability with their friends, and this will going to spread out, and it's going to also give the whole industry a more positive image. And so let's be leading the way, and let's inspire the travelers and let them share this with other fellow travelers, and let's communicate this in a very clear way. So at the end, we will all benefit from it, and also our planet will benefit from it at the end, which is the most important aspect. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. Wonderful closing remarks there. Well, once again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking part in this. And again, thanks to Mars, Diego, Altavia, JTI, and Counter for sponsoring this session. Please note that this session will be on demand now on this platform in a short while, but also will be streamed on the TR Business YouTube channel. So we hope that you will all be able to join us for the sessions throughout the rest of this week. And as I mentioned earlier, see you also very soon in Singapore, where Mindset and TR Business will be curating the Sustainable Future session at the TFWA Asia Pacific event. And we'll be meeting back here in June on the webinars on diversity and inclusion and health and well-being on the June the 1st and the 15th. More information coming soon on trbusiness.com. And as we've discussed, Cyprus Duty Free will be hosting, host sponsor of our Travel Retail Consumer Forum, once again, a joint initiative between TR Business and Mindset. And that's taking place from the 5th to the 7th of September in Cyprus. And we look forward to seeing you there, as well as, of course, in Cannes. It seems a long way away, but the Travel Retail Awards ceremony will be on the 4th of October. And submissions are being received right now as we speak. So you have up until the end of May to get your submissions in for the Travel Retail Awards, another joint initiative with Mindset. So we look forward to welcoming you and seeing you at all those events coming forward. Thanks once again to you all. Take care and see you very soon.